So the third week of the curse in Dreaming City is back this week, and so is the Shattered Throne with it, which allowed me to get the Wishender Bow this week. So I've used it for a few days. I've used it in quite a few activities, and I've done like one match of Gambit and one match of Crucible, so obviously it's not the best. I'm not going to have the best experience to talk about those, but I'm able to talk about using it in general in PvE, and also just its perks and how it feels and that sort of thing. So we're going to start off with the perks of the weapon, then I think I'm going to go on to how to get the weapon. I would advise looking up an actual guide, because I'm not going to have any video clips of actually getting it or anything like that. I think just look up a guide, but to give a general idea of how to get it, I'll go over that after I go over the perks. Then I'll go over the appearance, the lore, how it is in PvE, how it is in Gambit, and then Crucible, and then I will go over my overall sort of opinion of the gun, or of the bow, I guess. So the bow has 4 perks. The first perk being Queen's Wrath, and its description says, while aiming down sights with a fully drawn bow, enemies behind walls are highlighted in red. What this means is if you pull the bow back the whole way, so if you hold in RT or your firing trigger and the bow gets fully drawn back, you then have the ADS with it, and if you aim down sights with the bow fully drawn, it'll highlight any enemies which are like through one object basically. So if they're behind one object, they'll be highlighted in red so as you can see them through that object. If they're through like multiple walls or it's across the map, you won't see them, but if they're through a rock or a wall or a door, you'll be able to see them. But if it's 2 doors, you'll be able to see them. So it works like that. So if you're aiming down sights and looking through one piece of cover with a fully drawn bow, you'll be able to see enemies highlighted in red, which is quite useful. It's quite good in PvE. In PvP it does work in Crucible, however the bow just doesn't do enough damage to warrant using it in my opinion. So yeah, but it's a pretty cool perk. The second perk is High Tension String, which just has the general sort of increased accuracy, slightly slower draw time, slightly decreased stability. It does draw pretty slowly, however for the perks it has I think it's warranted. The third perk is Anti-Taken Fletching. What this does is, well, it says it is specialised to fight taken targets and it increases your accuracy. I think the whole specialised to fight taken targets means it actually does more damage to taken targets. So it does more damage to taken, and it also has increased accuracy overall, from what I can gather. Unless that means it's got more aim assist on taken targets, but I highly doubt that. The fourth perk is Broadhead, which says that piercing arrow, basically the arrows are piercing arrowhead arrows, and that means that they damage the targets on the entry and the exit of the targets. Basically you're damaging the target twice when you fire them with a bow. So if you shoot them with a bow, the arrow goes into the enemy and out of the enemy, or the back or whatever, so it'll damage them twice. So it might do like 4,000 damage on the way in and the way out or something like that. So that's how that works. Obviously they could have just bundled this into one damage thing, so it's doing 8,000 damage as soon as it enters, but it's just their way of doing it, I guess. So, and then one shot can also over-penetrate multiple targets, which means that you can get collaterals with this gun, with this bow, sorry. Obviously you can't in Crucible. Maybe in Iron Banner you might be able to, but in Crucible you can't, because you do like 121 damage per headshot from memory, or 130 damage per headshot, which isn't enough to kill someone. So unless all the enemies are really weak and they line up in a row, you can't kill them. So yeah, and it also has one hidden perk, which is the fact that it can destroy taken eggs which are found in the Dreaming City. So if you don't have the bow, you may have seen these taken rock looking things that are immune to any gunshot you fire at them or anything you do to them. It'll come up with immune whenever you shoot at them. With this bow you can destroy them. Destroying one of these eggs or rocks or whatever actually gives you a legendary item. So it's not like a powerful legendary item, but it gives you a Dreaming City gun or piece of armor or something. So yeah, it does that, which is pretty cool. But if you destroy all of them in a certain area, it also gives you a piece of lore. So if you do that all over the Dreaming City, it'll give you lore. There's 40 eggs, and apparently whenever you destroy 40 you get the Taken Sparrow. I'm not sure if that's what it actually is, but I'm pretty sure there will be a reward for it. So yeah, it's probably like the sleeper nodes on Mars, only it's probably a bit different in terms of you actually get a reward at the end. So to get the bow, you first off have to actually do Shattered Throne, but you don't have to complete it. So you just have to get up to the ogre boss fight, defeat the ogre, and then you go up to the statue and you present your talisman thing that you use to actually enter the Dreaming City. You have to make that in the Untitled Chapter right before you get to Dreaming City, so you use that thing. So whenever I first did it, I did it with a friend. However, I we did this glitch where we were able to skip the ogre boss fight because we just couldn't do it. We were way too low level. If you are too lower level and you do have a friend or someone you can do it with, I would recommend just doing the glitch. Look it up. I think it's basically you have to go down into the boss fight and both of you have to wipe. So you have to wipe, you know, the team has to wipe, and whenever the second person wipes, the host has to change character or something. Basically they need to leave the game, which is change character or go to the loading screen, or the login screen, and if they do that on the right timing, as soon as the screen pops up, it'll get to the boss fight, and whenever you drop down, it'll just let you proceed. So it's pretty useful in that regard. You'll get looted for it as well, but the important thing is that it lets you go forward and you'll be able to present your talisman to the statue. If you do that, you can also obviously do it legit, but it's easier just to do it like that. Then, if you go to the Four-Horn Gulch, you won't actually get like a quest for this. It's kind of like a hidden quest type thing, but if you go to the Four-Horn Gulch in the Untitled Shore, there will be a wee tool marker type thing darting around the place, over to the right hand side of the area when you're going through from the main tunnel place. And if you start that mission, you'll be able to go into like a wee cave place and fight 3 taken bosses, I believe. So it's kind of like the Whisper quest. It's not nearly as bad as the Whisper quest. It's not as difficult, but it's just 3 taken bosses you have to kill, and when you kill each of them you'll get a strange coin type thing. And then once you defeat all 3 of them, you can leave the mission or whatever, and you have to go back. Obviously it's recommended you have a fire team for that. Obviously you can solo it, but it's recommended to have some people for it. Then you go back to the Shattered Throne and you have to summon 3 hidden enemies, which is you basically summon these 3 taken bosses you just killed around the Shattered Throne. And once you do that, you'll get like a charged coin for each of them. The first one's at the very start where you have to do the symbol thing. The second one's just before the ogre boss from memory, and then the third one is during the ogre boss fight. So it's I mean, I did it with a friend, so I was able to do the first 2 with a friend, and the third one we had to draft someone in from the Destiny LFG app. But yeah, do that and then go to the statue and it gives you the bow. So it's not too difficult to think, you just really need a friend or 2 and it is quite useful. So yeah, it's obviously a lot easier doing with a fire team than it is doing solo, but look up a guide if you need it, which I would imagine you will, because I didn't explain it a lot well. So it's just kind of like an overview. In terms of appearance, I think the bow looks really cool. It really fits the Dreaming City theme. It looks all awoken-y, Dreaming City-esque. And there is an ornament for the bow. I don't have it, my friend has it, but I don't know what it looks like. I would imagine it looks pretty cool. Apparently it makes the charge icon look cooler, or look clearer. Basically with the bow, you'll see it when I'm playing the game, but whenever you ADS and you're charging up the bow, there's a wee blue meter just off center, so right beside your like reticle basically, there'll be a blue charge symbol. It goes all the way to the top, then it keeps going through like a statue type thing, and as you're holding in RT or R2, whatever it is, the blue statue will slowly go down, and whenever it reaches the bottom of the main blue section, it'll fire the bow automatically. So it's quite cool in that regard. I think that actually is a really cool feature of the weapon and makes it kind of look even cooler. But the appearance I think looks really nice, and I think that's one of the reasons I like the bow so much. The lore tab, I'm not really going to talk about the lore, but it tells a story from like the Queen's first wrath. So if you're interested in that, it'll be on screen. Obviously you can look it up on different places online as well, and you can read it for yourself in the collections tab. If you can even see the bow in the collections tab, I'm not sure. So there's that. In PvE, in general PvE, so I was playing the Blind Well, which is this week it's Taken themed, so it's actually really good. So the gun is very good in the Taken Blind Well basically, so it's very good against Taken enemies. It can one-shot any normal red bar, and that goes for any race of enemy, and it can also collat them as well. So if you're shooting an Acolyte for example, it can basically one-shot Acolytes, and then it can go right to one Acolyte and hit another Acolyte. Same thing for Dregs, same thing for Vandals, or you know, if you get a headshot on the Vandal, it'll kill them. Same thing for all the different low enemy types basically. For Taken, it will do a lot of damage to any enemy type. It does a lot of damage to the yellow bar ogres in Gambit from the blockers. So, you know, the large Taken blocker, it'll do a lot of damage to them, which surprised me quite a bit actually. So it does do a lot of damage to Taken enemies. It does seem to do more damage to Taken enemies than normal enemies, which is pretty cool. It works very well in Blind Well, like I already said. Seeing enemies through walls is pretty useful as well, because you might be thinking, you know, I can't see an enemy, there's one on my radar, where is he? If you ADS, charge the bow fully, you'll be able to see where they are. as long as you're only through one piece of cover. So it is pretty useful in that regard. It's a pretty cool feature and I like it quite a bit. And most importantly, the bow is fun to use and it packs a punch. Obviously it's an exotic, so that's a given, but yeah, it's a pretty cool bow. In Gambit, it does a lot of damage against blockers, as I've already said. It does do decent damage to all of the enemies. However, I find that it's probably more useful just using a normal AR or something like that. Using whatever you're comfortable with. Obviously, if you find that the bow works really well for you, continue using that. But personally, I thought the bow, I was getting a lot of moots and that sort of thing, so I was doing as well as they normally would. However, I'd much rather use one of the auto rifles or from the Dreaming City, and I'd rather use one of those than the bow because I just feel like it's more useful and does more damage to normal enemies. The EP shotgun, which I use all the time, is also kind of used for blockers anyway, so it doesn't really matter, but it does do a ton of damage to the blockers, like abnormally large amounts. So yeah, it does more damage than one EP shotgun shot, and that's at a distance. It is a headshot, but still. So it does do quite a bit of damage to the blockers, which is the important thing. It just goes down to personal preference. Personally, I thought it was a bit underpowered against normal enemies. It does do decent damage, but it is a bow, so I would have expected more damage. However, it does tons to the blockers, so maybe that's a good trade-off for you, I'm not really sure. But personally, I'd rather use something else. In PvP, I recommend not using the bow, because it does 130 headshot damage approximately, so it's a 2-shot kill basically. And yeah, it's 3 shots if you hit them in the body, and I think that's not that good for a bow. I could be wrong, some people might disagree with me, but I'd much rather use the meta, which is a pulse rifle. So yeah, I was getting outgunned quite a bit basically. Keep in mind I don't play Crucible quite a bit, or I don't play Crucible that much, so yeah, some people might be good with it, but personally from my experience I didn't like it and I would recommend not using it. It does let you see through walls though, however I found it wasn't that useful if you can't kill them. Overall though, I would say that the bow is very worth the grind. It isn't very much of a grind, it's decently easy to get, as long as you've got a few people to play with. However, obviously if you play the game solo like I did a few months ago, you can go into the Destiny app, the official Destiny companion app, I think it's on Android and iOS, and you can go to the Fireteam section, put in a wee post saying Shattered Throne, whatever, or the Wishender mission in the Untitled Chapter, and I'm sure people will join you, and you people will play with that. You don't even have to join a party with them, you can say no mic, it doesn't really matter. So yeah, but overall I really like the weapon. I think it was really worth getting it, and it looks really cool. It works very well in normal patrols, normal strikes, any normal activity. However, I would much rather trade it out for a more adept weapon for the likes of a raid or something. Obviously in the raid it's taking enemies, so it's probably quite good, but for everything else, like Gambit and Crucible, I'd rather use something else. But overall, I think it's got pretty cool perks, and that's about it. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider leaving a like, maybe subscribing, and I'll see you next one. Bye.